Before we embark on this journey, I must caution you that the tale ahead delves into mature themes. The narrative explores the trials of new motherhood, the dynamics of family relationships, and the complexities of infidelity. If these subjects stir unease within you, it may be wise to pause your viewing at this moment. I'm Bradley Shepherd. At 42 years of age, one might say my life is unique. Had you shared with me a decade ago that this would be my destination, I likely would have chuckled at the absurdity of it all. Here I find myself, nestled in my kitchen, gazing into a half-empty cup of coffee, seeking to unravel the tapestry of everything that has unfolded. For the past 8 years, it has been just my son, Maximus, and me, navigating life together. Since the divorce, it has seemed like it's just the two of us standing strong against everything that comes our way. At the tender age of 10, his father chose to leave. He held back his tears, not allowing them to surface in my presence, at least not yet. I could perceive it in his gaze, the manner in which he'd perch by the window, as if holding on to the hope that perhaps today would be the day his father returned. Naturally, he never did. Once upon a time, I vowed to myself in that moment. I promised myself that I would go to any lengths to ensure Maximus felt the warmth of family, even if it was just the two of us standing together. For a time, it seemed I was able to keep everything in harmony. He was a delightful young lad, gentle and reserved, always eager to lend a hand with the chores around the home. As the years passed, a transformation began to unfold. He began to transform. And, if I'm being truthful, I felt the same way. This year, Maximus reached the milestone of turning 18. He has outgrown his childhood. Yet, there are moments when I sense he is still on a quest to understand the essence of manhood. He has always carried a certain quietness about him. He tends to stay in, not really forming deep connections with others. I've attempted to engage him in conversation about it, yet he merely shrugs it off, insisting that he's fine. Deep down, I sense that he's not truly okay. A mother possesses an innate understanding. About a month ago, he approached me with something I never saw coming, a revelation that caught me off guard. He shared with me that he had been borrowing my belongings, my intimate garments. Initially, his words left me bewildered, and when clarity finally struck, it felt as though the very earth beneath my feet had been torn away. A surge of emotion welled up within me, urging me to shout, to cry out, to question the madness of his thoughts. Yet, I chose not to. He sat there, head bowed, a picture of shame and embarrassment, could not bear to look at me. In that fleeting instant, a revelation washed over me. This was more than merely what he had accomplished. This was a tale of his emotions, a narrative of the words left unspoken. He wasn't a deviant or a creature of darkness, he was my child. And he found himself in a battle. Wrestling with emotions that eluded his grasp, battling against impulses that seemed beyond his command. And I just couldn't bear the thought of adding to his already heavy heart. Thus, I embarked on a decision. In a moment of negotiation, I struck a pact with him. I conveyed to him that he was free to pursue his desires. Yet, there would be guidelines to follow. He had the ability to find relief. Yet it was necessary for him to do so in my presence. In that manner, I could ensure his safety, that he wasn't venturing beyond any more boundaries. In return, I declared that I would invite anyone I chose into the house, without him questioning or judging my decisions. Though it wasn't the ideal answer, it was the only one that came to mind in that fleeting moment. Since that time, the journey has unfolded. Distinct. Maximus appears to be at ease now, his tension fading away. He remains quiet, yet he no longer shies away from my presence as he once did. And what about me? It has dawned on me that this arrangement holds significance beyond just him. It's for me as well. It grants me the liberation I've longed for, the liberation to embrace my life without the need to tread lightly around him. In the stillness of the night, I find myself awake, pondering whether the path I chose was indeed the right one. One can't help but ponder the thoughts that might swirl in the minds of others if they were to uncover the truth. Would they label me as a poor mother? A setback? Perhaps they would, yet they remain unaware of Maximus. They have yet to experience the profound anguish of witnessing their child in pain, feeling utterly powerless to mend it. They remain unaware of the struggle, the delicate balance of existence, where one feels as if they are on the brink, desperately clinging to the fragments of their world, striving to avoid the inevitable unraveling. The future remains a mystery, shrouded in uncertainty for us. I'm uncertain whether this setup will endure over time, or if it's merely a ticking time bomb, posed to explode at any moment. Yet, at this moment, this is the tale we live. This is the path we've embraced. Amidst the chaos and intricacies, I strive to give my utmost effort. For him, for the two of us. If you're still here, I invite you to show your appreciation by liking this video, sharing your thoughts in the comments, and subscribing for more captivating tales like this one. Believe me, there are countless layers waiting to be revealed. It was a twist of fate that led me to this unexpected arrangement. It was a spontaneous decision, one that I didn't fully contemplate. It simply unfolded. In one fleeting moment, I found myself seated, grappling with the challenge of how to approach Maximus regarding his revelations. Yet, in the blink of an eye, the words flowed from my lips as if they were guided by an unseen force, eager to be set free. Continue on your path, I encourage. However, I require a few things in exchange. He gazed at me as if I had just uttered words from a distant realm. His complexion drained of color, and his hands tightened into resolute fists upon the kitchen table. For a fleeting moment, I believed he might rise and stride away. Perhaps I wished for him to. Perhaps I wished for him to refuse, to declare my sanity in question and exit the room in a flurry. Yet, he chose not to. He sat there, gazing at me, his mouth moving as if words were dancing on the tip of his tongue. Yet he seemed lost in the moment, unsure of how to express himself. "What do you mean?" he finally inquired. His voice trembled softly, barely above a whisper. It seemed as though he hesitated, caught in a moment of uncertainty about whether he truly desired to uncover the truth. With a deep inhale, I gathered my thoughts. "Well, you can continue with that, but make sure it's just on eyes. In exchange, I am free to embrace my life as I choose. I have the ability to welcome others into the space without you needing to utter a word about it. There are no judgments, no inquiries. We each find what we seek. Is that all right?" A profound hush enveloped the moment that followed. Maximus remained silent, his lips sealed tight. He gazed at me, his brow knitted in thought, his lips drawn tight into a narrow line. It was clear he was wrestling with my words, striving to unravel their meaning. I found myself engaged in the very same activity. The words lingered in the air between us, a palpable presence that I could no longer retract. It wasn't that I was entirely convinced I wanted to. At last, he gave a nod, just a whisper, a hint, barely enough to catch the eye. "Very well," he murmured, his voice so gentle that it nearly slipped past my ears. "If that is your desire, and that was the end of the tale. That was the agreement." The first time it happened, a wave of nausea washed over me, and I felt like I might lose my lunch. I perched on the edge of my bed, my heart racing within my chest, my palms slick with sweat. I convinced myself that this was exactly what he required. It was a more favorable outcome than what could have been, that I was undertaking this journey for him. Yet, beneath the surface, I understood it was far more complex. It is never so. Maximus entered the room, his gaze fixed firmly on the ground. Silence enveloped him, words unspoken. Nor did I. Our eyes never truly met. Not in the way that matters. I simply remained in my seat, feigning indifference, as if this were merely an ordinary day like any other. And when it was over, he departed in silence. For what felt like an eternity, I remained still. Caught in the moment that had just unfolded, I found myself seated, gazing at the wall, attempting to assure myself that all was well. Indeed, this was quite satisfactory. It's curious, the ways in which we adapt to the unexpected. In the beginning, each moment struck like a blow to the stomach. Yet, as the days passed, it began to flow with greater ease. Or perhaps I simply honed my craft in the art of feigning indifference. I reassured myself that it wasn't causing harm to anyone. It was simply unique. I convinced myself that I was being sensible. I was crafting something meaningful from a challenging circumstance. And for a time, I held that belief close to my heart. Maximus, in contrast, unfolded a tale all his own. He put on a brave face, but the truth was written in his eyes: shame, the guilt, all too evident, though he never voiced it. I could sense the deep-seated loathing he felt for his own dependence on this, for requiring my presence. Each time I caught that expression on his face, it shattered my heart just a bit further. But what was I meant to do? He was my child, my sole offspring. I found myself unable to look away from him. I couldn't stand idly by as he struggled in the depths of his own emotions, watching him sink beneath the weight of it all. So, I embraced my usual resolve, donned a courageous facade, and pressed onward. For him, for me, for us. I'm uncertain if my choices are leading me down the correct path. There are times when I find myself questioning what the right path truly is. Yet, this is the place we find ourselves in. This is the tale we've woven together. For the moment, this is sufficient. It must be. In the beginning, it felt quite familiar. Maximus adhered to the pattern, if one could even refer to it as such, in the gentle embrace of the morning light, and occasionally as the day bids farewell in the evening's glow. It unfolded in unexpected ways, yet it remained within reach. I reassured myself that this was merely a fleeting moment, that he would eventually lose interest, that it would fade away once the excitement diminished. Yet, I found myself mistaken. Rather than decelerating, it surged forward with even greater intensity. Gradually, in the beginning, as the sun rose, it gracefully transitioned into the embrace of the afternoon, and soon, the night wrapped its velvety cloak around the world. Then, 2 mornings in a row, I began to observe how swiftly the hours and the day started to dance around this arrangement. Normalcy was a rare visitor, and the air in the house often felt thick with the weight of our unspoken agreements. I attempted to cast it aside, to bury it deep within the recesses of my thoughts. Yet it remained, an ever-present spectre haunting my consciousness. As I found myself in the midst of folding laundry for the first time, a sense of unease washed over me. Maximus entered the room, silence enveloping him like a shroud. His face bore the weight of unspoken thoughts, and his posture was rigid, as if he were bracing against an unseen storm. Before a word escaped his lips, I could sense his desires, as if they were woven into the very air around us. I placed the clothes aside and settled on the edge of the couch, anticipation building as I waited for him to finish. Yet, there was an unmistakable shift this time around. He stayed long after the end had come. He paused, gazing at me as if he were on the brink of sharing something profound. Yet the words eluded him. The tension coiled within me, the gravity of the moment bearing down like an unyielding stone. "Are you all right?" I inquired, my tone gentler than I had meant it to be. He nodded. Yet, the glimmer in his eyes revealed a deeper truth. This was no longer a matter of relief. It was something beyond the ordinary. On that fateful night, slumber eluded me. As I lay there, my gaze fixed on the ceiling, the events of the day danced through my thoughts, each moment unfolding like a tale waiting to be told. I reassured myself to let go of the spiraling thoughts, convincing myself that I was merely weaving tales in my mind. Yet, beneath the surface, I was aware of the truth. This had evolved beyond a mere coping mechanism for him. It was becoming a necessity for him. Something he found himself leaning on more and more. And the most terrifying aspect was, I had no idea how to put an end to it. In the days that followed, Maximus's demeanor transformed even further. He ceased his attempts to conceal it, no longer biding his time for the perfect moments. It felt as if he had cast aside all notions of boundaries, as though the agreement we had forged was merely a ticket to indulge in his whims at any time he pleased. Perhaps it truly was. I had granted him the liberty to pursue this path, hadn't I? On that fateful day, when I first playfully nudged him. It happened by mere chance. In the heart of the kitchen, as I was crafting dinner, he stepped through the doorway. His gaze was palpable, tracking my every movement as I navigated the space, each step under his watchful eye. In a moment of uncertainty, I found myself questioning my own actions. Perhaps I sought to ease the strain, or perhaps I was probing him, curious about the limits of his resolve. Without a second thought, I let my jacket slide off, allowing it to tumble onto the counter. His breath caught in his throat, and I pivoted to meet his gaze, a subtle smile playing at the edges of my lips. "Is there something amiss?" I inquired, feigning ignorance to the way his cheeks turned a rosy hue. He remained silent. He simply turned and exited the room. Yet, I could sense the heaviness of his stare remaining long after his departure. From that moment on, it transformed into a captivating game. I would gather my hair, allowing my shirt to ride up just a tad too high, and leave my jeans unbuttoned for a moment longer than necessary. Nothing clear, nothing obvious, just enough to stir his discomfort, to create a moment of doubt before he finally turned away. It bestowed upon me an unusual sense of mastery, a strength I hadn't experienced in ages, and I despised how deeply I enjoyed it. Yet, with each day that unfolded, the boundary between us faded just a bit further. He began to seek me out with increasing frequency, crafting reasons to linger close, even when there was no necessity for it. And I allowed him to proceed. I reassured myself that it was innocuous, that it held no significance. Yet, the reality was, I found myself uncertain about its meaning now. Doubt clouded my mind, leaving me uncertain of everything that once felt clear. In the stillness of a late evening, a pivotal moment unfolded, bringing everything to a climax. Maximus sat across from me in the living room, his gaze unwavering as I immersed myself in the pages of a book. The atmosphere was laden with an unvoiced tension, a palpable sensation that sent shivers across your skin and quickened the beat of your heart. I raised my eyes to his, locking onto his gaze, and for the very first time, I held my ground and didn't shy away. He certainly did not. The silence lingered between us, thick and oppressive, until I mustered the courage to clear my throat and rise to my feet. "I'm heading to bed," I murmured, my voice scarcely rising above a whisper. He nodded. "Yeah." I sensed his gaze lingering on me as I made my way down the path. It's a mystery how we arrived at this moment. It's a mystery how I allowed it to unfold to this point. Yet, here we find ourselves, ensnared in a cycle that eludes my grasp for a way to escape. As I navigate through this journey, a lingering doubt creeps in, whispering that the reins I once held firmly may have slipped from my grasp. It was only when Enrique Franklin stepped into our world that the threads of our existence started to come undone. Our paths crossed thanks to a mutual friend, one of those laid-back introductions that seem insignificant in the moment. Yet, Enrique was not the sort of man who slipped from memory with ease. He possessed a captivating charm that seemed entirely natural, as if bringing a smile to your face required no effort at all. His laughter enveloped the room, radiating warmth and charm, lifting my spirits and making me feel buoyant. Perhaps, for the very first time in ages, I might allow myself to be vulnerable. Enrique began to visit more frequently. In the beginning, it was merely for a meal or a drink on the back porch. Yet, before long, he found himself lingering in the living room, staying well past the moment when Maximus had slipped away to his room, and then, on a fateful night, he chose to stay, never to depart. I chose not to conceal it from Maximus. That was never included in our agreement, you see. Yet, I couldn't shake off the expression that crossed his face the following morning when he discovered Enrique at the kitchen table, leisurely sipping coffee, as if he had been a fixture there for ages. There was a quiet undercurrent, a whisper of unease that I could sense in my son. I noticed the tension etched in his jaw, the way his fingers gripped his plate with a little too much force. In the beginning, Maximus remained silent. He lingered at the periphery, a silent observer, shrouded in a veil of melancholy. As the weeks unfolded and Enrique's presence in our home grew more constant, his silence evolved into something more piercing. He began to snap at me over the smallest of things: forgotten errands, mismatched socks, and trivial annoyances that seemed to grow into something much larger than they should have been. I attempted to dismiss it, convincing myself it was merely his method of adapting. Yet, deep down, I sensed the resentment brewing between us, dense and oppressive, akin to a tempest poised to unleash its fury. One evening, as Enrique and I lounged on the couch, chuckling over something amusing, Maximus strolled into the room. He remained silent at first, simply observing us with an expression that eluded my understanding. As I lifted my gaze and locked eyes with him, it became clear: the pain, the fury, the bewilderment that had been simmering just below the surface for weeks. Before I could utter a word, he began to speak, his voice a soft tremor in the air. "Do you even care anymore?" he asked, his voice slicing through the silence like a sharp blade. Enrique's gaze met mine, a flicker of surprise crossing his features. Yet my focus remained unwavering on Maximus. "What are you speaking of?" I inquired, my tone unwavering despite the rapid beat of my heart. He advanced a step, his fists tightly balled at his sides. "You seem indifferent to my existence. Once upon a time, there was a group of individuals united by a common purpose. They embarked on a journey filled with passion and creativity, weaving together their unique talents to create something extraordinary. This is the tale of who we are and what we stand for. Let me share with you the essence of this journey, what it means to us, and the impact it has had on my life." All fell quiet in the room. Not even Enrique had the courage to stir. I rose gradually, my heart constricted as I sought some semblance of understanding in Maximus's expression. "Maximus, that's not true," I whispered gently. "Indeed, my concern for you runs deep. All that I have done, all that I continue to do, is for you." "For me," he retorted, his voice climbing higher. "What does any of this mean for me? You allowed this fellow to stroll into our lives as if it were the most ordinary thing in the world. You sit there, sharing laughter with him as if I'm just a shadow, fading into the background." The air escaped my lungs, his words striking me with an unexpected force. "Maximus," I called, extending my hand towards him. Yet he recoiled before my fingers could make contact. "I had no idea you held these feelings." "Naturally, you didn't," he remarked with a touch of bitterness. "Your preoccupation with your notion of freedom, or whatever it is you believe this to be, is consuming you. Do you even notice my presence anymore? Or am I merely a convenience?" The hush that enveloped the room was overwhelming. Enrique shifted restlessly on the couch, his words a soft murmur about needing some space, before he quietly slipped out the door. I hardly paid attention. Before me stood my son, a figure trembling with emotions I had overlooked for far too long. That night, after Maximus had stormed off to his room, I found myself alone in the living room, gazing at the empty coffee cup that Enrique had left behind. His words echoed in my mind, a relentless loop. each one slicing a bit deeper than the one before. Indeed, he was correct. I hadn't been pondering his presence. Not truly. I had poured all my energy into making the situation work, convincing myself that everything was perfectly fine. Yet, I failed to pause and consider the impact it was having on him. And for the first time in a long while, I sensed the profound gravity of my decisions. The pact I forged with Maximus, the thresholds we dared to breach, the distinctions we intertwine. It transcended our mere existence. It was a tale of transformation. Reflecting on the scars we left behind as we journeyed forward, that night, sleep eluded me. I sat there, gazing at the door, pondering if there remained a chance to mend this situation, or if the moment had slipped away, never to return. The morning following our disagreement, an eerie silence enveloped the house. Maximus lingered in his chamber, the door firmly shut, the atmosphere thick with unvoiced anticipation. As I settled into the kitchen table, my gaze fixated on the coffee before me, the steam rising in delicate tendrils, enveloping my mind in a soft haze. The weight of it all became too much to bear. Action was my only choice. Whatever this was, whatever transformation our relationship had undergone, it simply could not continue in this manner. Not for him, not my tale to tell. As the afternoon sun began to wane, I approached his door and knocked softly. Silence lingered in the air, a heavy pause that stretched on. I leaned in closer, my forehead resting against the cool wooden frame, yearning for a response. Maximus, I implore you, I need to talk to you, I whispered gently. At long last, the door groaned open, revealing him, his expression shrouded in mystery and his eyes encircled with the weight of fatigue. Forgive me, I whispered, my voice quivering with emotion, for all that is, for failing to recognize the depth of your pain, for allowing circumstances to unfold to this extent. I admit, I was mistaken. Though his expression remained unchanged at first, he moved aside, granting me entry. I perched on the edge of his bed, while he reclined against the wall, his arms folded across his chest. We find ourselves in need of assistance, I confessed. Both of us. I can't keep pretending like I know what I'm doing, and I can't let us keep going down this path. I've already made too many mistakes, but I want to try to fix them. If you'll let me. Maximus didn't say much at first. He just nodded, his gaze fixed on the floor. But a few days later, we were sitting in a small office across from Rafael Cabrera, a family therapist I'd found online. Rafael was a kind man, his demeanor calm and steady in a way that made you feel safe, even when you didn't want to talk. And at first, neither of us did. We sat in silence, the weight of our story too much to put into words. But Rafael had a way of breaking through that silence, asking questions that didn't feel like prying, but like invitations. Slowly, Maximus began to open up. He talked about the loneliness he'd felt since the divorce, the confusion he carried about our arrangement, and the resentment that had been building inside him. I listened, tears streaming down my face as I heard him put words to feelings I'd ignored for far too long. In the weeks that followed, therapy became a part of our routine. It wasn't easy. There were days when we left the office more drained than when we arrived. Days when I questioned if we were really making progress. But, bit by bit, the walls between us began to come down. Raphael helped us set boundaries, real boundaries this time. I told Maximus that our deal was over, that it had been a mistake, and that we needed to start fresh. At first, he struggled to adjust. There were moments when I caught him retreating to old habits, his frustration boiling over into anger or tears. But with Raphael's guidance, we found healthier ways to cope. Maximus started journaling, something I never thought he'd try, and even joined a local martial arts class, where he found an outlet for his emotions. Slowly, I saw him change. He stood a little taller, spoke a little more confidently, and began spending more time out of the house, building connections that weren't tethered to me. For me, the hardest part was facing myself. Really facing myself. Therapy forced me to confront the choices I'd made, the ways I'd let my own fears and insecurities dictate my relationship with Maximus. I'd spent so much time trying to hold on to him, to fill the void left by the divorce, that I hadn't seen how it was suffocating us both. Letting go of that control, learning to trust that he could stand on his own, was one of the hardest things I've ever done. One evening, months after our first therapy session, Maximus and I were sitting on the porch, watching the sun dip below the horizon. He looked over at me and said, "Thanks, Mom, for everything." It wasn't much, but it was enough. I reached over and squeezed his hand, the kind of simple gesture that spoke volumes without needing words. We're still figuring things out. Healing isn't a straight line. It's messy and complicated and full of setbacks. But for the first time in a long time, I feel hopeful. Maximus is finding his way, and so am I. And while we may never fully erase the mistakes we've made, we're learning how to move forward. Together, life doesn't come with a manual, and if it did, I probably would have thrown mine out a long time ago. Maximus and I have journeyed through trials beyond my wildest dreams. Yet here we stand, resilient and unwavering, persevering onward, continuing the journey of discovery. The atmosphere of the house has shifted, carrying with it an air of change, perhaps a bit brighter. A certain tranquility envelops us when we realize we are on the path to something greater. Maximus has discovered his balance, embracing moments with friends and dedicating time to his personal passions. When our paths intertwine, it feels as though we are encountering one another as distinct souls, rather than as two beings ensnared in a tangled web of confusion we never quite grasped. We continue to share our moments, naturally. Recovery may not be flawless, yet it signifies a journey forward. For me, it has been a voyage of self-discovery. I've journeyed through the landscape of my own heart, discovering the art of forgiveness for my past missteps, shedding the heavy cloak of guilt that had burdened me for far too long. I've come to realize that not every situation can be mended, and at times, the most loving act is to take a step back, allowing those dear to us to navigate their own paths and discover their own solutions. The journey has been challenging, yet I find pride in the strides we've taken, not merely as a mother and son, but as individuals rediscovering the essence of respect and trust in one another. From all my experiences, I've learned a vital lesson: the significance of true boundaries. These are not merely guidelines. They are expressions of deep affection. Embrace the affection for those who surround you, and nurture the love within yourself. They are the guardians of what is dear, nurturing the space for growth, fostering understanding, and weaving connections. I've come to understand that accountability holds equal weight to forgiveness. At times, the most challenging act is to acknowledge your mistakes, yet it brings an unparalleled sense of liberation. To all who lend an ear, let me share this. Your mistakes do not shape your identity. What shapes what you do after defines you. How you rise from your struggles, how you confront those you've wronged, and how you journey onward. Growth unfolds not in the pursuit of perfection, but in the courage to embrace change, even when fear looms large, even when it aches. Maximus and I are still figuring things out, and I think we always will be. Such is the way of existence. However, for the first time in what feels like an eternity, I sense that we are finally standing on firm ground. We are crafting a vision of improvement, a journey towards wellness, and I believe we shall continue to journey onward, united as one. Regardless, I'm eager to know your thoughts. Imagine, if you will, what choices you might make if your universe crumbled into chaos, just as mine once did. What steps will you take next on your journey? Share your thoughts with me in the comments. And if this touched your heart, remember to like, share, and subscribe for more tales that resonate.